Hey Blasters, welcome back. It's Djente. Today, in this video, we're going to be covering what gear you should wear as a main tank in the Sapphiron fight. I've been seeing the question asked a lot if you should be wearing frost resistance, and we're going to be covering that today. Blizzard also recently put out a blues post explaining that Sapphiron's frost aura damage is going to hit every 2 seconds instead of 1 second. On the beta, it was pumping damage out every 1 second, but that's not the way that it was intended to work, so it's going to change when Naxx releases, and it will be hitting once every 2 seconds. Before we jump into the video, a like, a comment, and a subscribe would be massively appreciated. It really helps my channel grow, so let's jump in. Okay, so let's take a look at Sapphiron's abilities so we know what we're up against. This boss has two phases. It has a ground phase and an air phase. The boss has a frost aura that will deal damage in both phases, and that's his frost aura. This will deal 600 damage every 2 seconds. When he's in his ground phase, he will be dishing out life drains, which will go out to around 10 players. This will drain 2k health from that target over a period of around 10 seconds and give it back to the boss. This life drain is accursed, and it can be decursed by mages and druids. He will also do a cleave, so this means he needs to be faced away from the raid when you're tanking him, and he'll also do a tail swipe, so your DPS need to be sure that they're not directly behind the boss and getting knocked around and stuff like that. When the boss goes into the air phase, he will throw out ice bolts, which do around 3k damage. This will turn people into ice tombs, so they need to be positioned so there's going to be multiple ice tombs in the room. These ice tombs are important because they are going to be what you use to line of sight the boss with his frost breath. He will cast a frost breath that creates an orb that moves slowly to the center of the room. When it hits the ground, it will kill anyone that's in line of sight. So the only way to avoid this is to go behind one of the ice blocks, which will be one of your players, and then line of sight the bomb hitting the center of the room. Okay, so we're going to have a look at a log report from the PTR on a Sapphiron kill. Before we get into it, it's worth mentioning that players that were on the PTR had access to a flask vendor, but everyone's going to be flasked in Naxx anyway, more than likely, and they also got a massive buff. Their buff on the PTR consisted of giving them 50% extra damage, they got a health buff, but more importantly, they got 200 frost resistance as standard. That's actually really good because it helps us to work out, especially in the case of this log, how valuable the frost resistance is. This guy, who's called Aethel, was using a full mitigation set, or like mainly mitigation. There's a few threat pieces in there. He had no frost resistance on his gear apart from the Helm of Wrath, but that's quite standard. That's going to be a very nice piece to wear, and we can check out the damage he's taken in this fight and see how valuable it is to use frost resistance. If we go to the damage taken tab, you can see that 60% of the damage that he took was melee. He took 13% cleave, which is also going to be melee. He took 20% frost aura damage, which is, back then, was hitting every second. So if you look at how much was mitigated, it was about 60%. So the 200 frost resistance that he got from the PTR buff was mitigating 60% of the damage he took from that. What we can work out from this is if that you double the duration between the ticks of the frost aura, which is what we're going to experience, because instead of the frost aura ticking every second, it's going to tick every 2 seconds. We are going to roughly, as a main tank without any frost resistance, take the same amount as damage as Aethel did on this fight. We might take a little bit more because he mitigated 60% of damage with frost aura, and we're going to be doubling the duration. So I think instead of 20%, we're probably going to take around 25. But definitely, from my recommendation, it's going to be so much more valuable to run a mitigation set over a frost resistance set. There's a few pieces like the Helmet of Wrath and definitely some of the epic pieces that come from Naxx that are going to be useful for tanking this because they're going to have mitigation stats and frost resistance on top of them, so that's going to help you with his melee abilities and his frost aura. But if you were to go in there with some of the BIS frost resistance pieces, the plate ones that are like greens from Stratholme, your survivability on the melee attacks are going to be so gimped compared to if you went in there with the mitigation set. So I really don't think it's going to be worth it to run a frost resistance set instead of a pure mitigation set. So let's take a look at a gear set that I would recommend for tanking this boss. I've built this set purely with pieces that don't drop from Naxx. In your first clear, before you get to Sapphiron, if you're lucky to pick up some plate pieces that are going to be going to the main tank with frost resistance on them, you can definitely work those in. It's up to you what you're doing with your guild, if you want those to go to the main tank or if you want those to go to DPS. But this is the set that I'm going to be using. So we've got the Helm of Wrath, and that's enchanted with the Presence of Might. This can definitely be swapped out for Conquerors, but it's got a bit more stamina and it's got some frost res on it that might help. We're using Mark of Cthulhu for the necklace, Conqueror's Spaulders with 30 attack power on them, Cloak of the Golden Hive with 1% dodge, Conqueror's Breastplate with 4 stats, Bracelets of Wrath with 9 stamina, Steadfast Determination Gauntlet, 15 agility for mitigation, Royal Courage Belt, Leg Plates of Wrath with the Presence of Might on them as well, Chromatic Boots with 7 stamina. 7 stamina is obviously going to be better for this fight, but it really sucks to play without the move speed, so that's totally like a preferential thing there. Then on the rings, we're using Ring of Emperor Veclor and Archimetros, Ring of Reckoning. This is because this is going to be good with a DFT. If you don't have a DFT, you could swap the Archimetros out for Band of Acuria and use a different trinket in this slot. Life-Giving Gem is going to be really nice if something goes wrong and you get low and you can top yourself up. This is with the Thunder Fury, Elementium Reinforced Bulwark, and the Crossbow of Imminent Doom. On the shield, we're using a 7 stamina enchant. You could definitely get Frost Resistance enchanted on this as well. I think they're both going to work out similarly. Frost Resistance might be better, especially on slower kills, so that one's definitely up to you. If you are not an orc or a human that can get weapon skill and use a different weapon, then these can definitely be swapped out for Edge Masters so you can get that weapon skill as well. This is a very mitigation focused set and it's going to be what this fight requires. The tank damage is really heavy on the melee. If you are lucky enough to pick up some pieces you can from Naxx before you get to Sapphiron, you can definitely swap those in. Next, we're going to have a little look at consumables that are going to be really nice for this fight. First, let's take a look at some of the consumables that are going to mitigate the amount of frost damage coming out. A pre-popped Greater Frost Protection Potion will be really nice. I wouldn't recommend using one during the fight because that will put you on potion cooldown, and a Stone Shield is going to be much better to help mitigate some of the physical damage coming out. A Chill Wind Eco, which turns into a Juju Chill, will give you an extra bit of frost resistance and will be really nice. Any health consumables that you can get, like Rumsey Rumbrak Black Label, Dirge's Kicking Chimeric Chops, Elixir of Fortitude, they are all going to be really valuable here to bulk up your health pool. Again, defensive consumables like Superior Defense, Stone Shield are going to be absolutely massive as well. Threat consumables will be really important. People will be dealing less damage because they're going to be in frost resistance gear, but the more threat consumables you have active, like Elixir of the Mongoose, Firewater, Jujus, that's going to allow you to equip as much defensive gear as possible, mitigate Sapphiron's damage, and not worry about threat. Naxx is going to be very consumable intensive, but most main tanks are used to that anyway, and at least we get to kill more difficult bosses and pop probably the same amount of consumables that we already are, so that's going to be good. I hope this guide has helped. We've pretty much covered everything to do with this fight in terms of gearing and consumables. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. I also stream at least 3 times a week on Twitch, so be sure to hit me up there if you have any questions. And until next time, Blasters, I will see you in the next video. Come on, little DFT. Come on. Come on.
Ooh. Yes,
I fucking called it, man.
Gracias.
Gracias.